There's a moment so small it can hardly be measured. It's almost unnoticeable. This moment of arising when the body and mind decide to call energy me. An unsettled sensation in the belly, a disruptive pulsing through the nerves, a whisper of hormones in the bloodstream, and suddenly the emergent world acquires words and feelings, hardening into jagged edges and opinions. This is the genesis of emotion, rising in a stunted breath, the birth of thought. It happens countless times a day, each spark giving rise to a raft of stories about self and other, about right and wrong, gain and loss. And yet each spark already carries its own dissipation. To see that, to feel it directly, this is to walk the path of awakening. Before we think, we feel. And before we know, our bodies react. A subtle change in the chemistry of being, casting a fog on the reflection of the moment, a surge of norepinephrine, a drop in dopamine, a slight constriction of the blood vessels in the belly, in the face. These small risings happen below the level of thought, but they are not below awareness. We think anger begins in the mind, but it begins in the belly. It begins as tightening. If you can meet it there before it becomes a name, it already loses its poison. Peter Schneider said that. Once the event rises within consciousness, the prefrontal cortex rushes to explain. It builds a scaffolding of thoughts around the feeling, a raft to stay afloat on the sea of uncertainty, trying to define the undefinable. And this is how emotion becomes cognition. The amygdala is activated. The limbic spark spreads upward, and the storyteller brain builds a world to justify this tiny, tiny spark. Practice is not about getting rid of our thoughts. It's about not being fooled by them. Awareness appears in the very moment we recognize we've been caught. Mel Weitzman said that. Breathing into awareness is not a metaphor. It is a physiologic recalibration. Each long exhale activates the vagus nerve, slowing the heart, lowering cortisol, signaling to the reptilian brain, no threat remains. No threat remains. When we breathe consciously, we give the body permission to complete the chemical cycle without enlisting the mind's commentary. We let the storm end where it began, in silence. When one side is illuminated, the other side is dark. The famous quote by Dogen Zenji. The chain of our suffering is not a mystery. Sensation, chemistry, thought, identity, and clinging Each seemingly amorphous interconnection can be seen in real time. When sensation, our senses arise, we meet it with awareness. When chemistry surges, let breath dissolve it. It dissipates in 90 seconds. Can we be clear for 90 seconds? How many relationships were lost in the span of 90 seconds? How many rash decisions were had in 90 seconds? Can we be clear and empty for just 90 seconds? When a thought begins, see it, feel it, bow to it, let it pass. When identity tightens, say, I am the breath, I am this breath, and smile. And return to this open field of awareness. Our job is not to polish the self, but to see through it until it shines itself. Peter said that. From the standpoint of neuroscience, this is simply energy regulation. An emotion unreinforced by cognition decays in roughly 90 seconds. A thought that is not believed, meaning it does not resonate with your resonant structure of beliefs at the moment, disappears even faster than that. What persists beyond that time of decay of arising mental structures is only the echo of repetition. The mind's habit of refiring the chemistry is brought about through lack of attention. Stop the cycle of escalation. See the thought and eliminate the time to be present and breathe. In Zazen, we stop feeding the loop. The chemical wave peaks, fades, and passes. What remains is awareness, empty, radiant, unfettered by its own empty arising. And experience myriad things is delusion. That myriad things come forth and experience themselves is awakening. Dogen Zenji said that in the famous quote. Patience is the fortitude and capacity to stay through the cycle. Do not fall into the trap of chemistry, words, and emotions. Do not let sensation become chemistry, chemistry become thought, thought become action. To abide without adding anything extra is the essence of dissipation. So to abide without adding anything extra is the essence of dissipation. Allowing each moment to exhaust itself without the ego's manipulative and false intervention. Patience is not waiting, it's abiding in what's already so, without adding anything extra. Patience is not waiting, it's abiding in what's already so, without adding anything extra. Mel Weitzman, thank you. The next time emotion stirs, or when irritation develops, or longing manifests, Pause before the mind gives this structure. Feel the internal chemistry as pure movement. Do not affiliate this sensation with anything. Breathe softly into its heat. Feel the angst it wants to produce. Feel the unknowing. Feel the tightness in your belly. And then release this eternal breath. Watch as its nothingness is released into space. Allow the body to settle. Allow awareness and softness to rise in the void. Awareness will remain vast, unbound, rising and falling within your being time, sparkling, flaming, extinguishing within the Dharma position of this moment. These infinite moments have boundless temporal consciousness in the moment. These infinite moments have boundless temporal consciousness in the moment. All this is the ephemeral field, which all things arise and dissipate. When you see this directly, and when all is extinguished, the next moment produces the possibility to transcend conditioning and resonate as peace within the next breath. Thank you. Yeah, I thought that was the better one of the two. So. Yes, Ryan.
Well, it's funny you said that was a more advanced one because I feel like that's one of the Dharma talks I've been able to follow all the way through the most out of all of them.
Well,
Um,
that's wonderful.
and also, it's definitely a little bit like the cortisol and the vagus nerve. That's all about that's paramedicine. And
Yes.
it's like I'm on the right track. So that's just a little connection just to me in my life currently, but it's feeling very um it's like you're talking like around like the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, which are things I'm trying to get straight in my brain before I start going to school. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's our practice.
Mm-hmm.
So sensing what's going on inside our bodies, feeling our heart, feeling the breath, feeling the skin, just being present to our nervous system,
Mm-hmm.
our very frazzled nervous systems, right? And giving them a lot of love, right? And tenderness, but seeing the ephemeral nature of these feelings, creating thoughts, creating action, you know, the actual process of cognition, slowing, till you see the spark and then you extinguish it. This talk is called, dissipation and flame. I believe it. Yeah. And, it's about dissipating that spark at the beginning. If you don't catch it at the beginning, that's okay. You could catch it anywhere in there. And guess what? If you don't catch it, it'll fade on its own. If you don't give it fire, there's no second spark. Don't let that repeat itself. Don't let it build the story around it. There is nothing there if you let it fade. And all these feelings that we attribute to the self, they're arising out of nothing. Our bodies secreting thoughts like saliva and emotions from our reptilian brain, okay? We're in a constant state of fear and anxiety. That's how we're built. And that's okay. This is a practice to transcend and see our true Buddha nature, and not rest in that false violence of the world. 90 seconds. If you could be still for 90 seconds and breathe and clear yourself, really clear yourself, that's the start. Anybody have any questions? Joel?
Well, I can't say I have right now an immediate question. I just thought it was very beautiful and very helpful. Um, I was just, there's been talk about where did you get this stuff about, as it were, neuroscience, the way our parasympathetic, sympathetic systems, where were you looking and finding, for example, the
Sorry.
idea of waiting 90 seconds um, as a,
Come on, Joel. Oh, hold on. And
okay.
the network. All right. Are we back?
I can hear you now.
So I think, okay, you were sort of fractional there. But I
Yeah.
think you said, where did I get the waiting 90 seconds?
Well, just yes, and in that context, the neuroscience of the arising and fading of thoughts. It was fascinating. I think one of the questions was mention sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. I wondered where you went into a certain degree of fascinating brain science about actually how this happens and what happens within 90 seconds. And I'm just wondering where you found that.
Um,
Yeah.
three places. There are three books, Zen and the Brain, which is
Mhm.
not a great book. I don't recommend it. I mean, it's a great book, but it's just terse. Um,
Mhm.
Why Buddhism is True.
Uh-huh.
And there's a third book. My phone's off. On our neurochemical physiology. I could give you the name later.
Yeah.
From
Uh,
these three,
yeah.
you know, the way my brain works is I have to understand how I work and draw corollaries to science. So
Mhm.
normally I'm talking maybe, with Uji, it's the quantum physics and the relationship, multiple places, and the wave and particle.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And so I see the world that way and I see it in emptiness, right?
Mhm.
The neurophysical was way different for me because we're all wired differently.
Yeah.
And we all have different firings of all these things, right?
Right.
And you know, my nervous system, we're born and we think this is us, but we're carrying genetics and trauma of generations. And, my generational trauma is probably as horrific as anyone else's. And we carry that in the soma, right? And we think,
Uh-huh.
the soma,
The
in our
body.
cells, in our
Yeah,
body.
body.
And I was reading something this morning that the number one thing to prolong life was not diet or food, diet, exercise. It was lack of stress and anxiety. So that's interesting. But for me, you know, along with what Ren said, I have to see how I'm operating physically. And I'm being acted upon by all these things. And I thought they were real. And sometimes, yeah. And it's like a bronco, I'm trying to tame a bull, right? It's like, whoa, whoa. And the only way to tame it is to let go. It wasn't real. I was riding a fake bull. It was riding me, a matter of fact. And I was in the ground. I was just done. My nervous system I was done. And with the world today, it's so heavy. How can we deal? And it's this practice. It's this practice. It's dissipation. It's settling and softening and grounding and repetition and seeing and letting it go when it's a spark. Don't let it become a flame, and let it go in the breath, because that's what we do. And see the breath as eternal consciousness within all of us without any other thought about it. And then on to the next breath and the next breath. And it's not forced, it's just us. And that, for me, is dissipation, moment by moment by moment. And sometimes it feels like bliss, and sometimes it feels like real pain. And that's the practice, standing in the middle of heaven and earth and walking this earth with our feet, you know, rooted in the mud and blossoming to the sky like the lotus. That's this practice. And most people just want to take the light, but guess what? That flower doesn't get fed without the poop. So, so you gotta have your feet in the mud because that's where it starts. Understanding the self. That's the mud. So to know the self, we have to know the self first, and then we can forget the self. You can't forget the self till you know the self, unless so you're an exceptional being. But most people, this practice is a practice of slowly knowing ourselves, and then you let go slowly, because we see what a fierce grip this world has on us and the ego, and we let go. And we let go slowly, slowly, slowly. And you feel boundless, you know, tender and soft. And that's all for ourselves. That's all for ourselves. Because if we feel that way, that's what we give to the world, to our families, to ourselves. But we give it to ourselves first, because if we still have that negative dialogue, everything else is superficial. It's not, you can't give it away until it's empty. And when it's empty, then what you can give away is boundless. So, does that make any sense? I don't know.
Yes. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. John,
Yes, good morning.
good morning.
Um, I think that what you described this morning I agree. You said it was advanced, but I think it's extremely explanatory to people who are non-Buddhists who are trying to kind of get at the crux of what we're trying to do. Because, and I think I talked about this in one of my talks earlier, it's about being before thought. And what you did today is describe really what mindfulness is. It's not all this other garbage that you hear in pop culture. It is about being so aware and so in the moment that before the thought arises, you're aware of the rumblings, you're aware of the inner workings, the little changes in your breath, the little changes in the tightening in your stomach you talked about. We've all felt the tightening, the change in, the way things regulate in our body. When you're attuned and mindful, these things come to the forefront and you can work with them, right? When you're not and you're just caught up in the frenzy of every day and the things that are just pummeling you sensory wise nonstop, it's a little difficult to breathe and be in tune with those things. And I think that what you described very well describes really what mindfulness is and really what Zen practice is about. So thank you. It was great.
Thank you. When I wrote it, I wrote it to, we have a lot of new students, but I started writing and I'm like, oh, well, maybe this, yeah, isn't it appropriate? But thank you, because I meant it to be a ladder up and a ladder back down. And if I feel like if we can't see it, we can't practice with it. Okay. Once we feel it in our body, we internalize it, we can let it go, and it's not acting upon us. We have some agency now. Because, look, till I found Buddhism, this was all a mystery to me. You know, I, I was being acted upon by all of these neurochemicals and all of these secreting thoughts, and I thought they were me, but they're not. And there's great, great comfort in not in knowing that there's nothing there. That's the beauty of no self, of letting go, that we're not attached to any of these things. Good. All right.